Hey guys, back with episode 2 of the best hitting drills you can do at home. Hope everybody's staying safe during this COVID-19 virus and the quarantine. I know Indiana just officially shut down, it's officially shutting down tomorrow. Our county's actually been shut down for over half a week already. So, with hitting, again, we showed you the sledgehammer swings. We're on core strength, forearm strength, core stability, all that work. Today we're going to focus on fast twitch of the hips, okay? Kind of hip-shoulder separation. We're a little bit. I know it's a vogue word right now. Hip-shoulder separation. It is hip-shoulder separation. But we're going to focus on mobility, okay? Which is kind of like flexibility as well. And if you didn't know, flexibility is passive range of motion. Okay, that's what the definition of flexibility is. Mobility is an active range of motion, doing something while you're performing in a sport, doing something explosively, having the ability to get into a position to perform something powerful. Okay, so hitting. The drill today, okay, is hip turn drill, okay, and it's called a resisted hip turn drill. So what we're going to do is the hip shoulder separation. We're going to do a lot of keeping the torso closed and focus on the hips working first. We talk about the swing starting with the hips at ledge training, then the torso, which includes the back elbow, right? Then the hands, and then the barrel comes through. That's our 4-part sequence in the swing. So saying that, there's a lot of guys, like a lot of coaches will yell, swing harder, like rotate harder, turn the back side, rotate your back foot, squish the bug. I hope you're not saying squish the bug. They're saying all this stuff, and the problem is there are kids that, one, may not have the strength, core stability to do it, but two, they're not going to have the mobility to be able to rotate their hips. They don't understand what the hell that means, right? So you got a lot of guys that will kind of lean back and say stride, stay back there like here, and then they kind of spin off the backside, no. And then you guys get this exaggerated golf kind of finish where they kind of drift forward, and it's a phantom rotation is what I call it. They're not really rotating the hips. They're not firing that pelvis hard when they're rotating, right? And I used to box back in the day, so I'd always use an analogy like when my dad would tell me to throw a right hand, we're using the back side, we're using our hips, we're using our ass, we're using our entire body into this punch. We are throwing with our body. But we're being quick. If I'm big, right, if I'm huge, one, I'm going to get knocked out, two, but I'm not going to be as short and quick as possible. Those big punches, they're not going to have as quick of a punch as opposed to I'm being real quick and throwing that right across. Same thing with hitting. I've got to think about being quick, have intent, being powerful, not muscling up. So saying that, mobility is a huge factor with that. So I'm going to have my wife follow the camera. She's filming me right here today. I'm going to show you 2 drills that have the same exact purpose. I'm one of my 11-year-old Bulls players who's been killing it this off season. Hopefully he gets a chance to play because he's been doing so well. I really want to see him tear it up. And it's not just him. There's a ton of guys that I do this with. The majority of my guys do this as part of their pre-warm-up before their hitting lesson. So you can do this at home every single day. You can do it in your pre-warm-up before hitting lessons, no matter who you're hitting with. Now, what you can use. I'm using my power rack, which is what I use for obviously lifting, but I'm using it for this drill. Usually we'll use my fence at the facility to lock the knob of the bat in so we can resist while we're rotating. You can use a wall, and I'm going to show you, if you don't want to use a bat, we can use a second variation. I'll show you that here in a minute. So, what we're going to do is we're going to work on locking down the sleeve elbow and the sleeve hand onto this post here, okay? I'm going to get into my stance. I'm not going to worry about where the barrel is. I'm going to lay it on the shoulder because that's not important right now. We're focusing on the hips. We're focusing on the bottom half. So, I'm going to get my stance. I'm going to load and separate, okay? And I'm going to have my wife focus on the bottom half right here from my hips down so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to load and I'm going to separate. I'm going to stride slightly open. Think about 30, 45 degrees of that foot. As I am striding, my back knee is coming forward. I'll get into the mechanics of this. If people like it, I'll go over the mechanics of the bottom half in a future video. But you can look at my ABCs at hitting video where I talk about it a lot there as well. I load and separate here. Now my hips are already starting to come forward. I'm already starting to rotate my hips here, okay? Now, as I go forward, what I'm going to focus on here, I'm going to do 15 reps slow, keeping my shoulders closed, and I'm going to rotate my hips as far as I can, right? Keeping this heel on the ground right here, keeping the ball foot on the ground. I'm going to rotate my hips hard here, okay? And then reset. Load, separate, rotate. I'm going slow, but still rotating hard as far as I can while keeping my torso closed and opening these hips up. I'll get in this position here so you can see from the frontal view. Load and separate, rotating my hips, staying closed, staying closed, staying closed. I'm trying to create as much of that hip-shoulder separation as possible. Now, the reason I'm doing this, there's a lot of guys, like if you put bat behind their back, okay, and they'll rotate side to side, and you'll see some mobility weakness from side to side. You'll see a lot hip flexor, hip abduction weakness, the glute weakness. A lot of the muscles that rotate the hips in the swing, you see them weak. So if I say, hey, keep your shoulders square, let's rotate the hips, they can't do it. They're opening their whole body up. This lead leg is locking out early. And I'll go over rotation with the leg in a future video. But I want to say, hey, let's rotate the hips. So I'm rotating the hips as far as I can here. I can do it on both sides. Rotate here, as far as I can. There's a lot of guys, instead of actually using the hips here and actually internally rotating that hip, they'll lunge and arch their lumbar. They'll come forward, their knees come forward, they get too ball of foot, toe dominant, and they'll get here. You see a lot of guys in their swing, young guys especially, hypermobile guys in high school, they'll start rotating and they'll come here. Knees come forward, they're toe dominant, they're arching their back, and those same guys, they lose a lot of their balance in their swing. They're same guys that are trying to create space by leaning back on fastballs inside. Those same guys, their pars bones will start rubbing up against each other by hyperextending that lumbar. Those guys have back problems, okay? They have tight hamstrings, they have tight hips, they have no mobility in the thoracic spine, right? They have no mobility in the bottom half. A lot of those issues create injuries. So this is one of these things that you can do to help prevent injury. I'd advise always starting slow for those guys that have back injuries so they can learn the movement. Then, after I get a good feel, I'm going to load separate, bang! I'm going to try to fire the hips as hard as I can. Load separate, bang! Fire my hips as hard as I can. I'm really trying to rotate here. So again, if you see me, I'm going to do it without doing a wall. I've done this long enough so you can actually see me do it. Load separate, bang! I'm trying to fire those hips. Okay, really trying to get those hips going. As you see, toe is basically to the target. This is not locked out yet. Because when I rotate, I'm rotating. I always say rotate with the knees with my guys. I don't care if you don't like it because it works. I say rotate with the knees because it actually has them use their hips and actually use the right muscles when they rotate. So they rotate like this. By the time contact comes, we still want to hit on that stiff front side, right? But a lot of guys, they try to rotate and they stand up on their toes, they lose their hip hinge, instead of staying their heels on the ground holding this position, they can't fire bang hard from that back side because they're too toe dominant or too much on the balls of the feet. You want to be on your heels as a hitter, right? We want to drive that heel, that back heel, we want to keep that back heel on the ground as long as we can. It allows us to use your hips. Think about on a squat. When I'm doing a hip hinge, I'm driving my heels on the ground, driving my feet out, right? Knees out. I'm driving from there. I'm getting into my heels. When I'm hitting, I want to do the same thing. I still want the anchor point on my ball of foot, right? I still want an anchor point on my ball of foot, but I want that heel driving into the ground, okay? So, say you don't want to use your back. No big deal, okay? I'm going to have, let's use this barbell right here. So I was going to use this, but it's too far away. Most guys wouldn't be able to get this wide. So I'm just going to use this barbell right here. Now what you can do, you can grab a door, open the door, you can grab the door hinge, you can grab the other side of the door, hold that position right here, or have your dad, somebody hold their arms out. You're going to grab their arms, okay? So that way you can resist and get a feel of the hips working. So now you don't have to look at my bottom half on this part because you've already seen that. I'm going to load in, I'm going to separate. Boom, I'm going to fire my hips, and now my arms are locked out. I'm not opening up. This is preventing me from pulling my shoulder and opening the torso out, right? So now I'm here, load, separate, boom, fire the hips, okay? And again, 15 slow before you go fast for 15. Load, separate, bang, fire the hips, okay? So this right here will hold that position, prevent me from opening the torso first to get that hip-shoulder separation. Again, excuse me, that's a vogue word. It's obviously important. We want to have hip-shoulder separation. But what I'm trying to get, I don't want to sit here and use those words over and over because a lot of people say that and they don't. Everybody has different definitions for it, right? There's a lot of semantics in baseball. I want to make sure that I'm explaining things as clear as possible. So what I'm trying to get at when I say hip-shoulder separation is I want to be able to have the ability to let my upper body resist during the swing as long as possible, making sure my hips are leading the way. Hopefully that makes sense with everybody, because the hips will fire, torso fires from everything else, right? I don't want my torso and hips to go at the same time, because then I'm just spinning off of everything, right? So 3 sets of 15 slow, okay? 3 sets of 15 fast. You can do that every day. Do the 15 reps slow first, okay? And then do the 15 reps fast. It won't take you very long. Probably take you about a minute and a half to 2 minutes per superset. So 15 slow, 15 fast in the superset. Now, something that I haven't got into, prehab, rehab, like we talked about in the last video. A lot of people, as baseball players, we rotate on the same side of the body. You want to open up hip mobility in both parts of the body. You want to have good hip separation in both sides of the body. You can do this on your non-dominant side as well, okay? It'll help with the mobility on the bottom half, help with mobility in the back, helps so much keeping you healthy. There's so many guys in baseball, I can't go over long enough. A lot of it is stupid string coaches that hurt lower backs. I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of great string coaches out there, but there's also a lot of ones that mean well that don't do a good enough job of helping with mobility. What I'm getting at is there's a lot of low back injuries, and a little bit of rehab, a little bit of flexibility work, a little bit of strengthening in the right spots can help prevent those injuries. So hopefully this helps you guys. I know it will help you if you do it right. Hip shoulder separation, resisted hip turns, okay? Resisted hip turns. The upper body's resisted, staying closed, okay? I'm firing the back side. I used to call these closed hip turns, but I didn't want people to think that they were staying closed off when they're rotating. I want the belly button right, everything down, trying to open up, but this is here. So resisted hip turns, episode 2. Hope you guys liked the video. Share. Laird's Train. Hope you guys stay safe. Out.